check and give me a sign that we're actually live on YouTube, I would appreciate it. Okay, hello and welcome everybody. I'm Rebecca Saltzman from Balagan Be Gone Personal Organization. And tonight I'm talking with Aviva from Health Advise. And Aviva, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I would love to. This is so exciting. I'm so happy that we're speaking together again every time.
I love talking to you.
I know, it's so much fun. Yes, I run a patient advocacy organization that helps English speakers navigate the healthcare system in Israel, or those English speakers who are planning to come to Israel, either permanently or temporarily. And I am very excited. I also should say I live here in Israel. And in addition to being a health advocate, I'm also the mother of 5. And I am so excited to be talking about the semi-emergency situations that we all encounter in our daily lives, and how do we handle them and how do we organize them. So.
Excellent. So before we jump in, I just want to say to everybody once again, we will be doing a giveaway for all those people on the live. If you're watching this on the recording, hello, I'm glad that you're here. And please stay on past the giveaway if you're watching this on the recording, because we will be doing more questions after the giveaway. And if you're watching this on the recording and you have a question for me and Aviva, you can feel free to send us an email. Our information is going to be below in the YouTube link. Okay, so Aviva, let's talk about non-emergency emergencies in Israel. Okay, so the Chagim are coming up, the holidays are coming up, and a lot of times what happens is something happens. Someone gets sick, you have a broken toe, you fell and, smashed your tooth. So teeth are a little bit of a separate entity because they're dental, but let's talk about how to manage injuries during a time when, there's not so many people on call, but also what to do if you have some sort of chronic problem where, it's really difficult to get doctor's appointments between now and, the end of Sukkot, basically. So now it's a couple of days before Rosh Hashanah, if you're watching this on the recording. And then till the end of Sukkot, it can be a little bit difficult. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how we can organize ourselves in that respect?
Completely. Okay, so first I want to clarify so we're all on the same page. People often ask me like, well, what I do, like, how do I know it's an emergency, or, but don't I need to go to the hospital?
I just want to interrupt you for 1 second.
Please.
We are not giving any medical diagnoses or advice. We're
no
just
medical diagnoses, and we are
we're just explaining how to navigate the healthcare system here. So
exactly.
You're going to also have to use your judgment, but yeah.
So that's why I tell people, if there's a broken limb, if there's, bleeding profusely, if you're unconscious, if you're in labor, if you think you're having a heart attack, you go to the hospital. Don't wait for a referral. Don't, you take the ambulance, etc. That's very important. Don't ever delay something because you're worried that maybe it won't be covered, etc. That goes for any country that you're living in. Obviously, better be safe and covered than doubting yourself and be sorry. But that being said, a lot of people who come to Israel don't realize that there are criteria that happen, that whether you're going to go to the emergency room or you're going to go to the pre-emergency service, and people end up getting like a very large bill, either from the emergency room or from MADA, which is the ambulance company, and they're very, very surprised. So that is why anytime that you are going anywhere, unless it's one of those reasons that I said, that you are unconscious, you are in labor, or you think you're in labor, you think you're having a heart attack, you've broken a limb, you have something in your eye, also that's important, you need to call which sounds a bit counterintuitive, but you need to call when you're on the way to the hospital so that you get a referral. And now every Kupa, you can call their main number, and you tell them that you have to, that you're going to the hospital, and they can send you a referral for when you get there. Now, I realize that sounds like a bit, counterintuitive. You can have somebody else call. Obviously, if you can't call, then you can deal with it afterward. Yes. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, we're having a audio problem. Does
Oh,
any
no.
Miriam, I'm sorry. Hold on one second. Can you hear the duplicate?
No, I don't hear any duplicates.
Okay, so just me then. Okay. Keep going, Aviva. Sorry. I'll figure it out.
Okay. Hold on one second. I have to just find my train of thought again. Okay, we're all good technically? Yes, I can continue. Okay, I'm continuing. Okay, so what I'm okay, I'm good. So what I'm going to recommend to people, and the reason that we're having this now today, before the holidays, before anything's happened, and going along with your organization tenets, which I love, is to make sure that you put the numbers, the important numbers, on your refrigerator or a bulletin board or wherever local before, so that you don't have to go scrounging in this emergency. So for example, I know lots of people, including in my family, when you're cooking pre Rosh Hashanah and you slice your finger and you know that something's not good there. There's a lot of blood, more than usual, etc. This is not a time to go to the emergency room. This is a time to go to the pre-emergency services that all the kupot have. However, it really depends on where you're living and what kupa you're in. So that's why it's so important to take a moment. It can be now, could be tomorrow morning, whatever, when you're not having a bleeding finger, to go find out where your kupa has its, what they call in Hebrew, a moked, or refuat chufa, the emergency service. In some places they outsource to Terem. If you've ever heard of Terem, it's like a pre-hospital clinic that does emergency care. I find them to be fantastic.
It's urgent care.
Right, or urgent care.
American,
exactly.
It's the Israeli equivalent of American urgent
care.
It's
right, exactly. They do some more than other places, but it really depends on where you're living. Some places the kupa has a special place that they send you that's part of the kupa. Like if it's after 4 o'clock, then you have to go, or after 7 o'clock, then you have to go to that place. Don't wait until it's a crisis. Make sure you find out now. Okay, I'm living in Ra'anana. I'm in Maccabi. Where do I go after hours? Do I go to the Moked? Can I go to a Terem? For example, if you are Mu'uchedet and you live in Yerushalayim, you can no longer go to Terem and have it covered. So that's a very important thing to know, because Mu'uchedet has their own centers around the city. Some are open 24 hours and some are open only 12 hours. So that's why a day. So that's why it's very important to note that. So that's the first rule of thumb. Yes, you want to ask?
So do you advise to call, like, I'm on Maccabi. I know on Maccabi we have a nurses hotline.
Yes.
And they often can direct you. Do all the kupot have that?
No, they don't.
Okay. But if you call the hotline, will they tell you where
if you call, yes, if you call them, yes, they will tell you where to direct you to either the nearest service. Yes. So
okay, so when in doubt,
you always call the number. You always call the number. Yes. That is the first thing, so that they can direct you. This is if you haven't, managed ahead of time to get the number and the address of the place that you need to go to. Now, just because you need to go to the hospital doesn't necessarily that the ambulance goes with it. And that's also important to understand that, that it's if you can, and it's doable, it's best to get yourself there to the hospital. So for example, when my husband fell and broke his ankle at 11 o'clock, on a Thursday evening, I'm sure it was like Erev Chag,
Of course.
Yeah. Of course it was. So then we just drove to the nearest hospital. Now I knew that he was going to be able to be covered by the emergency room because it was like a fracture that was open that needed to be, cast right then
But
and
the
there.
ambulance wouldn't have covered him.
Exactly. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so actually, this is a good time for me to insert this question here. What's the difference between Ichud Hatzala and MDA, which is Magen David Adom?
Right. Okay. So, what is the difference? There's not like, and obviously MADA is the largest organization in Israel, and they're the one with the largest ambulance network. But they all listen in on the same channels. They're Ichud Hatzala, for most part, they're volunteer, as opposed to MADA, where there's like more paid paramedics.
But Hatzala doesn't charge for the ambulance, I thought, right? Is that true?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah, if they come,
Right.
yeah, or the treatment there in the Shetach.
Also, Magen David Adom, for those of you who don't know, is the Israeli version of the Red Cross.
Of the Red Cross, right? Exactly.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, you mentioned
deciding about the ambulance, but
right, but so we're going back. Okay, so now you mentioned a very important thing about teeth, which which I just want to mention. So, if you fall and you break, so first a very important point that I just want to mention that is only in Israel, but if you are a student, meaning if you have a child until age 18 and they fall and break a tooth, it doesn't matter even if they're at school, the insurance of the school covers any type of teeth issue and you can have it repaired for free. So for example, children who fall down on a Shabbat, let's say, and break their 2 front teeth, they can have it repaired. Again, it has to be a place where the bituach, where the insurance has you can't just go anywhere you want to, but they will replace it for free. They will fix it for free, which is important to note because it can get very costly.
Even if it was not in
even
school.
and not connected to any school event, the fact that they are school age gives them coverage.
Okay.
However, if you're over 18 and you fall and you break your teeth, or you have a serious situation, you can go to a terem, you can go to the Moked for them to do some type of, usually it's pain management. They can give you something strong for the pain to hold you out until you get to an emergency dental service, which first of all is in the hospital. There is one hospital, the dental school, which is Hadassah in Israel, which does emergency dental care, which is important to know. Not obviously at nighttime, but it is operational during usually Chol HaMoed, Sukkot, at least.
But the Kupot have in their
some places,
dental clinics, they have emergencies, don't they?
Some places.
Okay.
That's why it's very important to note where you live geographically, that you find out with your Kupat, is there a dental clinic that has after hours emergency care? Because it's very, very dependent on where you're living.
Okay. So actually somebody did ask about the Kupot. Let's just do a quick poll. Oh, I did create polls, but now I don't see them here. So I did in advance prepare. If you live in Israel already, can you just raise your hand? Or put a yes in the chat.
You got 1, 2.
Yeah, we got 2. 3.
4.
Okay.
Yeah, we got 4.
Okay. So
okay, so some people are considering.
Right. So if you're not in Israel, right, they're planning to make Aliyah.
Okay.
Okay. So if you already live here, which Kupot are you on? Can you put that in the chat, please?
I'm going to make a guess ahead of time that 90% of the people are going to be with Maccabi.
I am.
Let's see. She's going to put it in the chat. Maccabi. Okay. Yep. Maccabi, best marketing in the world. Change from Maccabi to Maccabi. Okay, that I can understand. I would change from Chloe Tasso.
I mean, Sully does have some good features. It depends where you live. But-
Well, sometimes it's the only game in town. If it's the only game in town, then there you go.
It's funny because I have a friend, and we talked about this before. I think I told you this, that I have a
Look,
friend who's on
Miluchedet. It's very exciting. Janice is on Miluchedet.
she doesn't think Maccabi
Yes,
is
I
that-
said.
So I have one friend, and he's on Leomit, and we live in Haifa. and
Leomit
he
is
said
an
to me-
amazing coupa.
He said Leomit is so great because they don't have a strong service here in Haifa. Because of that, he can go private for almost everything, and they cover it 100%.
That's what I tell people. That is what I always tell people, that Leomit is a great coupa. Because they outsource so many things, and you get to see experts, on the coupa's dime.
Just saying.
And Janet, I think it was Janice, or is it Jess, who said that, I mean, you are, at the end of the day, what I tell everyone is there really isn't that much difference in the coupa. There really isn't. It's like here and there's some nuances that might be helpful, but there isn't really that much of a difference. And that's why I tell people, don't make yourself crazy when you're going to come to this country trying to figure out what's the best coupa. Everyone, I can't tell how many, questions I get every year. What's the best coupa? There isn't. They're all fine. I have my own little rubric that I use that I walk through with people to help them make a decision.
It mostly depends on where you live.
It depends on where you live. It depends if you have a pre-existing condition. It depends on a lot of things. Are you caring for a lot of other people that you have to manage their information for? It's a whole bunch. I mean, there can be small, nuances, but again, I mean, I think telling people who are coming from America, we have an amazing medical system here. We really do. We have top grade doctors. We have top services. We're doing a lot of amazing things, and that you can get a really amazing service. You just kind of have to know how to get it and where to go, and and
that's what this is for, by the way. So if you ever feel stuck, she's the one you want to call.
What do you say?
I said that's what you're for. If you're
that's what I exactly.
Call Aviva. Yeah.
Exactly. When you have a question and you say, "Wait, how am I supposed to get that service?" Then yes, you can definitely reach out to me.
Okay.
Yes. So what we're talking now about, we left teeth.
Yeah. So we took a little sidetrack, but I kind of want to get us back to the non-emergency emergencies. What happens when you have something that, okay, so we talked about this in our pre-talk when we were discussing what to talk about, where I was telling you how I hurt my foot. It's not an emergency. It's kind of hurting, but I need to see an orthopedist, right?
Right.
Okay, so I know that any orthopedist who I see is going to want to see an X-ray. Because they can't diagnose anything without seeing an X-ray.
Exactly.
But I also know that it's probably, yes. Miriam, can you post Aviva's contact information in the chat, please? But I also know that it's going to take me a while to get an appointment with an orthopedist. So in that situation, what is the best way to organize myself? How do I deal with appointments, and do I involve my family doctor? What do I do?
So this is an excellent question. So sometimes when we have something okay, so let's take your foot, because this is a great example. It really hurts, but you're still walking on it. You know that you're getting around your daily, but it hurts. A lot of times making the investment to go to the sort of semi-urgent care of the coupa and sit there for 2 hours can really benefit you, because you do sort of all of the legwork so that you can go to somebody else afterward with better information. So what does that mean? Every medical moked, every sort of semi-urgent place in the coupa, they have an orthopedist. You're going to go into the end. You're going to say, you kind of make it a bit more extreme. You say, I broke my toe. Something fell on my toe. She's going to say okay, take a number, or, you either go to the orthopedist or you have to do triage first. They're going to take your vitals. And then they're going to send you, the orthopedist is going to be oh yeah, maybe you broke it. I'm going to send you for an X-ray, and you can do it right then and there. So yeah, you're might sit there for 2 to 3 hours, depending on the weight, where you live, the time of year, etc. But then that you've got that piece of information, so that you're going to get a first opinion from the orthopedist who's on duty. I got teeth on the mind. who's on duty, who, by the way, could be like a big expert because they have to do rotation. So it could be you're not flying on somebody who just started their residency. Like it could be that you're flying on somebody's got like 20 years of experience as an orthopedist, and for whatever reason is doing emergency medicine that day. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like you at the same time, while you're sitting there waiting on your, waiting for 2 hours, you will make an appointment with the orthopedist who specializes in feet for, 1 month's time. So that means that you're doing the emergency part. Sort of, you're having somebody look at it. He's going to say like, lady, you have a serious fracture in your heel. You've got to go urgently. That's like a whole different game, because then you'll go see somebody privately, or you can make an appointment for the surgical department, at the hospital, because you already know that you might need surgery. Do you see? So it's like you're doing your own triage, but it saves a lot of time.
Okay.
And work. Now, if you can go to your family doctor and he can give you a referral for an x-ray, which is an easy thing to do, and that usually doesn't take so much time. So you go like the next day or whatever.
Probably you could ask the doctor for it through the app.
Yeah, for all the Kupot now you can ask through the app. Yeah. So x-rays are easy to get, but it's not like, so you do it the next day kind of thing. However, let's say you're having like a bad stomach issue or something like that. A CT, the doctor can usually give to you, but MRIs, the family doctor can't give a referral to. So that's why you asked about people with chronic problems. That's why I always tell people, do as much of the imaging as you can before you pay a lot of money to go see somebody privately. Okay. Now, sometimes people talk to me like we're in the matter of the conversation and they're like, oh yeah, oh, and by the way, I have private insurance, like I have Harel. I'm like, hello, way to bury the lead, like, why didn't you tell me that 20 minutes ago? Because then you can go to see somebody, first of all, a lot of these things, they have this like Ivchun Mahir, where you can go, next, like within a week, and you can get like all the services done through a Suta that are covered through your Kupa, through your private insurance. Or you can go see a private provider and get all the money back who's not in the Kupa, So it's like very important to make sure that you're using your private policy, as you should for those kinds of incidences.
So you recommend when it becomes an option to, or if it's a possibility to get secondary insurance, private insurance?
I don't say that as a matter of course. I think it's a very individual thing. I think that when you are presented with an opportunity to purchase it at a reduced rate, which is often through, a work situation, then it becomes beneficial. And I have a lot of people here coming like after retirement age, and they're asking me about, secondary insurance, like completely private insurance. It's very costly. I'm not sure there that the benefits outweigh the enormous cost, because then you're paying everything out of pocket, could be 400 shekels a month. And what you're getting in isn't, as worth it.
Do senior citizens get extra zchuyot? Like, do they have extra rights in their sal, in their kupa, in their healthcare benefits?
In terms of extra, no. They have like everybody else. Like if you come and you get, you buy Maccabi Sheli, which I do recommend to everybody to buy the supplement when they make Aliyah, because then you don't have the waiting period. The good thing about it is there's no such thing as a pre-existing condition for the kupa. So a lot of people who are making Aliyah with, a chronic illness, that's not a concern for them. Whereas a private insurance, you can't get it if you've got pre-existing conditions.
Okay, so on every kupa, whichever one you pick, you should get the highest level of service.
That is what I recommend to people when they ask me, because it's not so expensive. It's not so expensive. It's not so much more. Yeah, I mean, it comes up, depends how many people you have. Your family, it's about, maybe it could be like 200 shekels a month if you're a couple. But the benefits, are enormous in terms of the extra options that you are you're offered. For emergency services, it's not what we're talking about specifically here. It's not so meaningful, because really, like, everything emergency is really covered very nicely, in Israel. So,
I don't know if you mentioned this, so I just want to sort of recap since we're back on emergencies for a second. If you take an ambulance
Yes,
from Magen David Adom
yes,
and you are not admitted to the hospital, then
correct.
you will have to pay for the ambulance.
You will have to pay for the ambulance, yes.
But
And
if
if
you
you
are
went
admitted to the
without a
hospital-
referral, you will also have to pay for the emergency room visit.
Okay, unless you're admitted.
Unless you're admitted, then you have to pay for anything. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so if you're going to the emergency room
Yes,
for whatever reason, the moquette is closed or you can't get to Taram or whatever, you
right.
should call your hotline first if you can.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. To have them
Unless
give you a
in a
referral.
situation where you're like, if you think you're having a heart attack though, you don't need to call for.
You need to go. You need to go. Look, it could be that you're going to afterwards, they're going to say, oh, there wasn't a heart attack, and they're going to charge you. But this is where, often I come in for people is this is where you say, like, you can push back. And I think that's something that everybody has to know. Everything can be appealed. You should always appeal. If you get charged for something, you can always say no, and you can bring a letter from your doctor. You have to bring something medical to back it up. You can't just say like no, but you can bring something that they said he had this pre-existing condition and it was reasonable to think that he was having a heart attack, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And very often the first time you appeal, they will like give you, retroactively a referral. They do it less than they used to, but they will, but it is a possibility. So you
Okay.
should always appeal.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we're going to take a quick break and do a little giveaway. So
Oh, we did. I'm so excited about the giveaway.
yeah. And then we will go through all the
Questions?
extra questions. So
Okay.
get your questions ready. But here's what you're going to win. Okay. So one winner is going to win my Organized Jewish Life planner. One, and also the Organized Jewish Life book. They
I
will
just want
win.
to say, can I just say that I love that?
Yeah.
Like I bought it and I was so excited and I love reading it.
You bought it on the pre-order. Thanks.
I did.
Okay. And you'll also get a 1 month free to my decluttering membership on the silver level, and you get a free one-to-one session with Aviva for 1 hour.
Exactly.
Anybody else who would like to speak to Aviva can do so. She has a 20-minute discovery call that we will send all the information about after the call, and I will put it in the comments on the replay video too. Let's see, Miriam, let's see who the winner is.
I hope we need like
The
a drum
winner
roll.
is, drum roll please. The winner is Jess. Okay, Jess, please send your,
Exciting.
send a message to Miriam, a private message, or Miriam will message you right now and get your information.
Okay.
And yay, I'm excited for
Yay,
you.
Jess. I'm so
Also-
excited. We get to meet in
Um,
virtual.
Okay, so here are some of the questions that I got in advance. What are the difference between the Kupot? Basically, we covered that.
And
Practically
I want to
nothing.
say that if anybody goes also to my website, which is healthadvise.com with a Z, I have several like articles on exactly the kupot and how do you change, like how it's a good way to figure out which kupot to choose if you're making aliyah or you want to change, etc.
Okay. What does sharap mean?
Oh, right. Sharap is Sherut Rifui Prati, which is private medical service. And here I'm just going to like put on my public health hat for 1 second, is that this system is a public system in Israel. That's why everybody gets the same health care. That's why the majority of hospitals in Israel, like you can't go and say, I want to see Dr. Moshe in Tel Shomer, because it's a public hospital. There are the 3 hospitals in Jerusalem are private, and that's why you can see somebody in the hospital. But if you want to see a specific doctor and pay him privately, it has to be outside of the hospital walls for the most part. And because if you have the supplemental care like Maccabi Sheli, you can see a doctor privately on a subsidized level. So instead of paying the doctor 1,200 shekels, you would pay him 200 shekels. And you get
Great.
that
I love that service.
4 times a year if you have Maccabi Sheli, 4 times a year in the calendar year. So from January to December, that's important to note. I hope
did
that
not know
answers
that.
your question, whoever asked that question. Okay.
Okay. What do you get with the basic insurance? So actually, I think this is a really good question because like, I don't even know that. Other Israelis, can you raise your hand? Do you know what you're entitled to? What are you entitled to?
So I actually give a lecture on that. I think I just gave one the other, it's on YouTube somewhere, you can find it. But there's this thing called the basket of services, Sal HaBriyut, which every year the government votes on what's in that basket of services, which includes different imaging and all different types of medication, et cetera. It's always changing, mostly expanding. And that is what every citizen is guaranteed to get for, very low cost or no cost at all.
Okay.
So which is important when we're talking about emergencies, which is very important to note, is that all emergencies are in that. So for example, God forbid, you get to the hospital and your arm is broken and they say okay, hello, emergency surgery now, we can't wait. That's covered. That surgery will be covered then and there. If they say, sorry, Sarah, but you need to do surgery in a few days, then you can go back and you can choose your own person if you choose them. So then that's private. But that's a good thing to notice. Everything emergency is covered.
One thing that I was surprised to learn is you don't need a referral if you have a car accident and you go to the hospital.
No. Car accidents is
You have a car accident,
yes,
and you should go to the hospital after.
And you should always go to the hospital, have yourself checked out.
Yeah.
Don't do that thing. Wasn't there that thing years ago? I think it was in the States. This girl was in a motorcycle accident, and then she thought she was okay, and she went on the plane, and then it turns out that she had a lung puncture and her basically lung deflated on the airplane because of the pressure change. It was crazy, and there was a doctor there who basically saved her life by inserting a straw into her lung and expanding it. And yeah, I remember. So anyway, this sort of go to the
hospital. It's covered.
Yes.
Tell them, make sure you say you had a car accident.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. We talked about the ambulances and the difference between Hatzalah and MDA. Here's another one. Okay. Is psychotherapy covered or reimbursable by someone private, or is it only the Kupa therapists that aren't a good match?
So I assume by psychotherapy, you mean a therapist like psychological services and not a psychiatrist, which is a medical doctor who deals in mental health. Because a medical doctor who deals in mental health and prescribes medication is fully covered under the Kupa. And therapists are subsidized, meaning that you have to pay 150 shekels per session. You cannot get the money back. They have to be people who have an agreement, a contract with the Kupat Cholim in order to pay that money. You can't go see a private person and then expect to get the money back. Yes, to anyone who asked that question, it is definitely an issue in Israel about English-speaking therapists who you would like to see who have a contract with the Kupa. My recommendation is make noise, because I contact the Kupot and they say, you know what he needs. Tell your branch manager, send in a complaint, say we need more English-speaking therapists who have an agreement with the Kupa.
Okay, so the office manager.
Yes.
Can you complain in English?
Yes, you can always complain in English.
Okay.
Whether you can submit online in English, if you can have somebody write it for you in Hebrew, it's a better choice because it'll go farther. But as I always tell people, when in doubt, speak in English. You are always stronger and more assertive in your native tongue. Don't yell, but speak firmly. And yes, you can speak in English.
Okay. When you're requesting something from the Kupa, is it better to go in person or to do it online?
It depends what it is.
Like if you're requesting them to have an additional
provider. No, online, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
wait, this one, Miriam asked, can I answer Miriam's question? Because I just did like a whole post on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I posted the website. I posted the website that you can go. If you have a complaint, you have the special one on for Misrata Briut, if it's a doctor or hospital. I don't have the link here with me, but if you go on my site and you type in complaint, the blog post will come up, and there you can see exactly how to file a complaint, which I did recently.
Great.
Yes, it does actually get filed, and they do actually contact you. Yes, it's going to take like a month, usually, but they will contact you. Yes.
Okay. Judy asks, she got a referral for physical therapy. There are no appointments available until March, and so she's going private. She was told that she can ask Maccabi to pay. If so, how?
Yes. So the law is called the law of, let's see, what's it called? It's continuity of care. And that one of those aspects is that they have to give you a service within a timely fashion. And if they don't, then they need to reimburse you. That is the theory.
What's considered timely?
Yes. Right. So that is the question, is there isn't a date on it. For example, for kids, for speech and occupational, it's within 2 months. With the others, there isn't. But there is when you have to push, is that you have to go back. First of all, you can expand your area a little bit. Like if you have some mobility, you don't have to stay right in the one physiotherapy. You can, expand out to other offices that maybe are within like 20 minutes, if you have a car, especially. So for example, like if you're in, Modi'in, look at Ramle, look at Rishon, look at Renana, even Beit Shemesh. Like don't just stay in your area. Second of all, there are waiting lists. Make sure that you are on a waiting list. And third of all, say, excuse me, but I got out of the hospital and I have to have therapy on this X, Y, and Z. So let's figure out how we make it happen.
Okay, so let's talk about if you have surgery, for example.
Yes.
What are some things you can do to organize yourself so that afterwards you're not rushing or hustling to try to get the care that you need?
Excellent point.
Because they don't always
Yes.
pre-schedule you for things. So what are some questions we
They
can talk to our doctor about prior to the surgery to make sure that we are getting?
Yes.
What
So
we
first
have.
of all, if you are somebody who lives alone, and let's say you're going to have like hip replacement surgery, you need to consider like maybe it makes sense to go into a rehab place for 2 weeks where you're going to get the support rather than trying to get, be at home and trying to get help. That's one thing. Second of all, if you're going to have serious surgery and you're going to need help because you're without family, you can apply for disability, or if you're over retirement age, like the long-term nursing care, you can actually apply before the surgery. So you can process. You need to do it like it's like, really give it at least a month so that you will have money and or help in the house to help you afterward if you're not going to a rehab place. That's very important. Second of all, you need to get away, like basically the minute you have the surgery, you have to send out a note to your doctor, please give me a referral for physiotherapy in the home if you're not going to be able to, to be mobile afterwards for whatever reason, which you are eligible for. And also people who are in, who've got the supplementary insurance, so Meuchedet Tzir or Maccabi Sheli, if you've had surgery, you get 3 nights of a night nurse that they pay 75% up to a amount of money for a night nurse. So for somebody like, instead of, having a family member stay overnight in the hospital, you can hire somebody who can be with you. So those are all things that you can put into place, quite easily. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say quite easily. You can put into place. And those are the kinds of things I help people with all the time, help them putting those things together. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, but like, besides for that, like, can you press your doctor beforehand? Because I mean, if we're talking about surgery specifically, can you press your doctor beforehand, your surgeon, to give you the post-surgery appointments prior to your surgery?
You mean
Or-
the post-surgeons, the
Yeah,
post-surgery
because
appointment
what
of
I
the
find is,
surgeon?
like,
Yes.
yes, like the
Yes.
follow-up visits, like,
Yes,
because
yes.
they're not so keen to
The follow visit for
get you
sure.
on the
Usually they,
schedule, but then they
Yes.
want you to schedule afterwards when you don't have
exactly.
time to
No,
do
no,
it.
no. So for the surgeon, for sure, you can make that beforehand, and you should. The funny like caveat is that you can't get a referral for physiotherapy after surgery until that you've had the surgery, which I think is kind of ridiculous, but that's how the system works. That's why it's like you can't actually get the form, for, yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things that like drives me crazy. But yeah, but in terms of the follow-up appointments, yes, you can make them, and you should make them, and had like at the same time.
Okay. Aviva, can you give us some of your, someone asked, do you recommend B2X CUD?
That's an excellent question.
It is?
If you don't have any pre-existing conditions, I do, because it is something that does not, B2X CUD is long-term care insurance that you purchase subsidized through the Coupa. If you have a pre-existing condition, you won't be eligible, unlike other things. However, if you need assistance when you are older, and that's usually what gets us as we age, it's not like the catastrophic, it's the wear and tear on the body, then you're guaranteed X amount of money for 5 years that can help offset the costs of things that you need. So yes, it's usually not, I mean, obviously if you're counting every penny, so then you really need to do the calculation. But if you can part with 100 shekels a month, more or less, depending on your age, then yes, I would recommend for people to get.
How do you get it?
You get it through the Coupa, and now Maccabi, thank the Lord, that was such the benefit of Corona. You can now do the application online. And Mu'chedet, I believe that you can start the process also online.
Okay. Before we wrap up, first of all, if anybody has any last questions, please put them in the chat. But before we wrap up, Aviva, let's talk about briefly best practices for organizing yourself within medical care. Because, and these can be whatever tips are meaningful to you.
Yes.
For me, it's all about asking questions early on to your doctor and making sure it's while you're with your doctor, because you don't know when the next time you're going to see. So anytime you think of something, write it down and bring a list with you. Also,
Completely.
ask the doctor if you can record the conversation, especially if you're by yourself, so that you can remember what they say to you.
Completely.
And if you can, bring someone with you, because
Yes.
they might have extra questions that are really good, but they'll also be an extra set of ears for you.
Always bring, I tell anybody, anytime you're going to a specialist, always bring someone else with you. And absolutely always write your questions down, because, I always say there's an algorithm between like the length of time you've been waiting for the appointment and like the amount of information that you're going to forget that you wanted to ask. So, you're like, I've been waiting 8 months for this appointment. Now I can't remember. So write down your questions and don't feel intimidated. Like, you can read them through. Some doctors are fine with you recording. Other doctors are completely freaked out about it. So it really, like, you have to ask permission, and it depends. Yes, make sure that and that's why you have somebody else, so somebody else can take notes. Because especially if you're talking about yourself, it's kind of hard sometimes to like, really hear everything. I also recommend for people to have a physical folder. Everyone says, but everything's digital. Yes, but the computer's not working. That doctor doesn't have access to that file. It happens. So when you're going to a specialist that just bring the results of your test. Bring the results. Have a very nice binder organized with your, your nylon information or whatever. You can make holes and whatever, and you have your little folder. You have it. I have it for each one of my family members. Got their folder, so you can like take it with you when you go. This is obviously for people who are like, have a kind of chronic follow-up situation that they need. So I definitely still believe in paper.
Yep. Okay.
even if you're staying within the kupa, because sometimes, like for example, today at Point, I took my dad to the cardiologist. Now he could see some stuff but he asked about something else, and I didn't follow my own advice, and I didn't bring my dad's file with me, and there was information there that he could, because even though he's working with Maccabi, he's not in a Maccabi office, so he doesn't have access to everything.
Right.
So yeah.
What do you suggest that people do? I just lost my train of thought. Okay, but also you should bring anytime you get any testing done, you should bring results with you.
You should bring the results, and you should bring the disc. Always get the disc of the imaging results, because if he's a real specialist, he's going to want to see the image itself and not rely necessarily on the what is it called? The analysis of the person who analyzed it.
The radiologist who analyzed it.
The radiologist, or exactly. So always bring the disc with you.
Okay.
And always wait that extra 10 minutes and get the copy. Yeah.
Or 20.
Or 20 or 30, right? I mean, now more and more they're putting the images online in the cloud so that there's more access to it, but you can't yet depend on that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're hoping for that day, one day soon.
I don't know. Ministry of Health says 2025. Everything's going to be digital. That's what they say.
That's good.
Yeah.
What are the differences between Miuchedet Adif and C?
Right. There are nuances. It really depends on certain things that I actually also have a blog post. I have a whole guide on this where I go through and I tell people. So it's best for them to go to the website and they check it out.
Okay. It would be so great if there was like a comparison chart between all of the kupot.
I had that actually. I did have that. The thing is that it's very tricky because, if you're, let's say between the ages of if you're a child or you're of reproductive age or you're, of retirement age, it's very different. The benefits that the coupon each one, and they also change. Right. They change pretty regularly because they're, trying to be competitive one another. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I lose Bituach Leumi and Maccabi Healthcare if I'm out of the country for under 6 months? And is it a calendar year or?
Yes, it is a calendar year for the, if she's asking about the special, if you get subsidized visits, yes, that's the amazing thing. So if it all starts from zero again in January. But in terms of Bituach Leumi, not a calendar year and under 6 months now. It's only if you're out of the country more than 2.5 years that you lose your residency status, and then you lose your Bituach Leumi, and you have to reestablish it when you come back. But under 6 months is fine.
Okay, awesome. Does anybody else have any questions before we wrap up tonight?
This was such an exciting, dynamic group. It's so nice to have questions.
Any last pearls of wisdom you want to leave us with, Aviva?
Pearls of wisdom. I just want to leave people on a positive note, that this is great. It's a great system and you can do it. Don't be discouraged by the sometimes negative experiences that you have. There's also a lot of positive experiences out there. I think that people really do want to help. And, just one foot in front of the other. I just want to, yes, this was recorded. I want to just go back for 1 second and touch on one thing. We talked briefly about complaining about a doctor. Mm-hmm.
What if you feel like you are not getting the treatment you need? You're not necessarily complaining about a doctor, but you just feel like you're not getting a resolution. And additionally, if you have a referral to go to, let's say, one specialist, but you want a second opinion or you weren't happy with that doctor, what are the procedures involved with that?
So, okay, so I'll answer your second question first. If you see a specialist in the Kupa and you want to see another specialist within the Kupa, if you see them within the same quarter, so that's the calendar quarter, it's January to end of March, April 1st, etc. So then you need to get permission from the Coupa to schedule another specialist, which you can do by, at this point, they make it pretty easy. You can call the Moked and you can say, for whatever reason, you don't even have to come up with a creative reason, that
just
you,
a second opinion.
yeah, no, that you say like, I didn't feel comfortable, or, you know, whatever, it was an area, or I want, you know, etc. And usually they'll give it to you, you know, they'll let you make an appointment with a specialist. You can always see a private one, you know, also during that time, if you want a second opinion, which is often, that's what they're there for, a second opinion. And you mentioned the complaint. The complaints are not just about a doctor. You can complain, you feel like that particular branch office, they're not meeting your needs, or you feel like you're not getting a diagnosis, and you've been bounced around kind of thing, or you had a bad experience in a hospital. It wasn't just one doctor, but it was a hospital. Whatever it is, according to the health service, you make a complaint through the Ministry of Health. It doesn't have to be specific to the doctor.
Not necessarily through the Coupa.
No.
Okay, but if you feel like what do you do when you don't feel like you have a diagnosis? Like, I don't know, let's say you feel chronically fatigued and they did all the blood work, everything's coming back normal. You really have something strange or unusual, but you can't get someone to diagnose you here. What do you do?
So there's a couple options. One is you can shop around for a good family doctor who you feel is going to sit down and listen to you, because sometimes family doctors can really be the person who can do things in order and can move your case forward. You can schedule an appointment, an hour with me, and we can go through everything and figure out what you've done and what you haven't done and make up a game plan. That's what I do with a lot of people. Sometimes we just need action items. It's very difficult, because once you have something that isn't so obvious, you have to sort of do, exclude things before. I tell people often to seek out different types of specialists. So if you're having like a fatigue, malaise, aches and pains, the rheumatologist can be, helpful for that. Seek out somebody privately, because they'll have the time to sit with you. Go with your blood tests, go with any imaging that you've done. Like, don't go to them from the get-go. Do all the other work first. Come to them with all the results, and then let them, as they say in Hebrew, break their heads about what the next steps are.
Okay. All right. There will be a recording that we email to everybody shortly, tomorrow morning. Vivian says, try to speak with the secretary of your neighborhood insurance and be a good patient advocate for you. Yeah, that's true, but sometimes that can be hard. So if you need help, Aviva or someone like Aviva is useful, because they know how to navigate the system. So yeah, there will be a recording. It will get sent out probably tomorrow. And if you want to reach me, you can reach me at Rebecca at RebeccaSaltzman.com. That's REBEKH. And you can reach Aviva at HealthWise, right?
Advise. Yeah, Health Advise with a Z. No, yeah, .com.
And both of us are willing and happy to talk to you about Aliyah and medical care and however we can support you. We would love to support you. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Shana Tova. And if you haven't made Aliyah yet, wishing you a successful Aliyah.